Hi, guys, and welcome to the Horror Room. So, last week we took a look at, I'd say, probably the worst Uwe Boll film, mainly just because of the animal stuff at the beginning. And this week we don't have anything like that, but we still have something kind of sensitive topic, upsetting stuff. Now, I just want to state I'm technically cheating with this last film. It's not really a horror movie, but it is about people doing horrible things. And there's lots of horror movies that aren't technically like, masked killers or supernatural, things. I mean, there's no zombies in this, um, but it's about human horror. And I get it. Sometimes, we watch horror movies to escape from the horrors of real life, but occasionally you'll watch a movie either fictional or based on true events like this movie was, and it sticks with you. It's worth watching, because sometimes you can't turn a blind eye to the uglier side of life, um, and surprisingly this is, in my opinion, hot take here, guys, a good Uwe Boll film. What? um We're talking about Stoic from 2008. And yes, before, because you guys saw me look over, I have notes. Just expect anytime I do a movie review, I'm gonna have notes. I ain't got no fancy teleprompter, and this is me giving you my impressions as I got them. Now I've seen this movie before. It's just been years, and I loved it back then, and I was excited to watch it because I was like, you know what? After three stinkers in a row, like finally I get to watch a movie that's good. Although technically, like I said, it's more of a drama, um, but it is. I'd say you could probably easily put this in the lower end of the extreme movies category, with movies like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Antichrist, stuff that doesn't really have any like monsters or anything, but the ideas that they provoke or the things about, the murders or the things that happen with the people are truly terrible things that could happen. Although Antichrist is kind of, a little more far fetched. The House That Jack Built, there's another one. I mean, it's Lars von Trier, so. But, anyways, so this movie is based off of true events. And I looked it up because I wanted to see, because some movies say, oh, this is based off real events, and then it has nothing to do with what actually happened. And this movie pretty much is exactly what happened. The only thing that I read is that they let the actors, what's that word? Improv. They let them improv some of the lines. And I gotta say, if the lines were improv, some of these lines are fan fucking tastic, and we'll get to that. But I looked it up, and it's based off of a prison that's in. I hope I'm saying this right. Siegburg, Siegeburg. I don't know. It's something. Um. So yeah. So we have, this is a movie where it's literally takes place in one room, unless you count the interrogation scenes, which are sprinkled throughout the movie. Um, so it's one of those, movies where it's like we're going to keep in one location, and those are hit or miss. But in this movie, I can say honestly, it keeps you involved with what's happening. Um, so you have four characters in this movie. You have Henry, who is played by the very famous, in my opinion, Edward Furlong, who's been in Terminator 2. He's been in American History X. He's been in Detroit Rock City, Brain Scan, Crow, Wicked Prayer, which is not the best Crow movie, and Jimmy and Judy, which is another great underrated movie of his. Um, he plays Harry, which I probably already said his name, and they don't really show what they're each convicted of till the end of the movie, but I thought I would bring it up now just so we can, keep that in the back of your heads. Doesn't really play into the plot, but when you're thinking of terms of how long they were supposed to be in prison versus how long they end up in prison because of what happens, it's pretty crazy. So Harry, Edward Furlong's character, is in for 3 years for armed robbery. That's a pretty not a light sentence. It's a pretty good one. Then we have Peter, who is played by Sam Levinson, who's been in X, Pearl, and Maxine. I don't know if he's had a main role or if he's just part of the movie somehow. And then Toys from 1992 with Rod Williams. Maybe he was a younger actor because like he looks like he's in his late 20s, maybe mid 30s, and stoic. I'd say maybe mid to late 20s. So maybe he was a kid in Toys. But yeah, Peter. Then we have Mitch. Now I will say that Harry and Peter, bad guys, and Mitch, he's the one we're sympathetic with. The only sympathetic character, I guess, maybe. Mitch is played by Sean Sippos. It's a hard name to say. He was in for vagrancy and resisting arrest for 6 months. So, lighter sentence, and you can obviously tell he's going to be the one that gets bad stuff happen to him. We'll get to... I just made it sound like more of a comedy. But we'll get to what this movie entails once I tell you who is in it. But Sean Sippos, who plays Mitch, has been involved with the Texas Chainsaw 3D, Final Destination 2, and The Grudge 2. So, some pretty good horror movies throughout this cast of people. Then we get to Jack, played by Stefan Menekes, in jail for arson for 6 years. And his only credits are Uwe Boll films like Blubberella, Postal, and Blood Rain 2 and 3 specifically. Sorry about it. I mean, we can't all be in great movies all the time, but hey, you got to be in one good movie, even though it still is a Uwe Boll movie. So let me go ahead and tell you what this movie's about, because I mentioned that it's based off a true story, but I didn't tell you what it was based off. The basic premise of the movie is, these 4 inmates have a poker game, and things get out of hand, and it leads to a bit of assault, and this in the back of a man. That's the easiest way I can put it. It's a prison movie, and it's a extreme movie, so I don't know how you wouldn't put that together. But yeah. Now, is it as hard to watch as the animal footage from the last movie? Hell no. Because this is, even though it's based off a true event, it's still acting. They don't gratuitously show any of those scenes. They're very much implied. It's still, hard to watch some of the moments, but it's more the human rawness of it. It's not like, hey, I'm watching animal snuff. So, we start the movie off with a quote. Like I said, these interrogation scenes are sprinkled throughout, where we're getting interrogations from Harry, Peter, and Jack. Because obviously Mitch can't talk, because Mitch is not able to, which you'll find out in a second why. So, Peter says, it's hard to envision when you're not going to be locked up 23 hours a day. You have the tendency to live minute by minute. So I think what that means to me is, in prison, like especially, it looks like they're in some sort of solitary confinement, which this is based off a prison in Germany. I know the prisons in America, different kind of system, but seems like there's more of a living, like a small dormitory situation in their prisons. Maybe it has to do with, how much space they have, but so yeah, you get the idea that these guys are just spending every waking moment together. Maybe the only time they have, because he says 23 hours a day locked up, so maybe they only have 1 hour of yard time where they get to go outside. I'm assuming. So then we're shown Mitch, who's the character who unfortunately all this happens to, making a noose. In case you don't know what a noose is, I can't really get into too much details, but he's shown making it out of the bed sheets and tying it around his neck to unalive himself. And, obviously that's not exactly what happens. I mean, I kind of spoiled it to you when I told you the plot of the movie. But, well, actually, I didn't. I just said that some bad things happen to Mitch. I mean, some reasons that some people would consider. But, anyways, so Harry, who is Edward Furlong's character, he's out of all the characters, I'd say he's the most apathetic about the situation. He just doesn't seem to care about the situation, Mitch, the other two inmates, anything. Like, he could care less. You actually see some emotion from Jack, who's the bald guy, and then Peter, who is the main, I guess you could say, second sympathetic character. He's the one that shows the most emotion. Like, he downright cries in some of the interviews, and I gotta say, impressive stuff from this actor. Like, Edward Furlong, you expect it from him, but this guy comes out swinging. Um, but yeah, Harry, we see that he sees Mitch hanging and runs to there's like an alarm button on the wall, a panic button in case they need to get a hold of guards. And he's like, hey, we got a hanging in 313, send some help, quick, get in here. And the guards rush in and they're like, everybody get down. They got to figure out what's going on. But they're detained and questioned separately. And like I said, throughout the film, we see their reactions to, certain events as they're discovering, or as we're discovering what happened. And them explaining their side of things and reacting to the truth of it all. So it's almost like the interrogation, they know that this stuff happened and they're trying to deny it, and we already know what's happening. So we're seeing them struggle with admitting it or coming to terms with it or just downright denying that they had part in it. And I gotta say, it's brilliantly done. Like I said, most of these lines were improv. Maybe it was more the film part and not so much the interrogations. I don't know. I honestly don't want to know. I think it's better that way. Because if the interrogation lines are improv, we get one of the best lines right before the title shows up. Peter, who, like I said, is the other sympathetic character, he's like, oh, it takes something like this for you guys to notice. It takes something like this for you guys to realize how fucking fucked up the system is. And he's like screaming. And it's like, ooh, it just kind of gives you chills. It gets you in that mood like, oh shit, we're in the big house now, boys. Bad shit happens when you're in jail. So anyways, Jack, who is the balder guy, he's like the big muscle, kind of. He recalls that, they're all playing poker. Mitch is cleaning house. He's wiping them out. He's pulling chips in, and they're like, hey, something might be up. Like, you're playing a little funny. This is suspicious. Like, roll them sleeves up, David Copperfield. But Mitch, like, wins all the poker chips, and he's also got a huge, like, Ziploc bag of cigarettes. So, I mean, if you know anything about jail, like, cigarettes, candy, like, these are commodities in jail. I'm not sure how things are in German prison, but, if you need to smoke, obviously if one guy's got all the cigarettes, you're going to hate that guy. But we're shown that, their game is interrupted by guards bringing in I think it's their dinner. Yeah, I believe it's their dinner. And they got like cups, they got bowls, they got glasses. Like, and I was curious because I'm like, in America at least to my knowledge, unless you're in solitary confinement, they don't just bring you your meals in your cell. You have to go out and eat with everyone in like a mess hall or something like that. But I guess that's somewhat true. That's what they do in German prisons. It's differs depending on the prison itself. So I'm assuming they wanted to recreate this prison accurately. So I'm assuming that this is exactly how this prison was run. Um, I don't know because it looked like they had like regular like no plastic stuff. Like maybe there was nothing they could eat with like a fork or anything. I wasn't really paying that much attention to their lunch or dinner trays. One of them had an apple. That was kind of weird. So obviously, I don't think they would give them fucking utensils so they could like have knives and their forks, anyways. Um, so and blah blah blah. So they're talking how, or the one guy says like Peter says that they would just sit around and they would talk and tell like stories they've heard a million times because you got to think if you're in jail with someone and you want to pass the time, you guys are probably going to get to talking, start telling stories, and guys tend to bullshit around about exes or sex stories. Obviously, if you're in prison, sometimes you're sharing stories about like, hey, what got you in here, and they do a little bit of that too. But then they finally get all restless and they're like, hey, we want to win back our cigarettes. And the guy's like, well, with what cigarettes? You don't have any cigarettes. Mitch is the one who won. And they're like, well, just loan us some cigarettes. So finally Mitch caves in and he says, all right. um, he well, we haven't gotten to that part yet. They're about to do that, but they're talking about the stories, and then during the interview, Harry's talking about Mitch. Um, and when they are talking about like did you know him as a person? Like what happened with like that? You don't really hear the interview people talking to them. You just hear their replies. But Harry, Edward Furlong's character, he he's so cold and indifferent to everything. Like uh, he says, it doesn't really make a difference. It's just a little more room in the cell now. Damn, that's cold. Like we're showing footage of them all laughing and cutting up and having a good time together, and in the end, this guy's just like, I got some more leg room. Like, okay, like, do you really? Like, you gonna put your feet up on the bunk bed? Like, I don't know. But so finally, Mitch agrees to play another round with them. He gives them each 10 cigarettes, and he's like, look, you got to pay me back on Monday. And he's like, well, let's make things interesting. So Mitch is the one who brings this up. Stupid idea, Mitch. He says whoever loses this hand has to eat an entire tube of toothpaste. And we're not talking like, you'd think it'd be like maybe a travel size toothpaste. No, it's a whole fucking tube. Not like okay, like that. Um, so of course, Mitch ends up losing to Peter, and they're like, hey, this was your idea, and he gets up, goes to his bunk. He's not having it. He's like, I'm not doing it. He like comes over, sprinkles cigarettes on the table. He's like, here, have some cigarettes, but I'm not fucking eating the toothpaste. Um, and that doesn't go over so well. Edward Furlong goes over and gets a bar of soap into a wet towel and wraps it up and just goes over and hits him with it. And that was probably the only part of the movie that I thought was unrealistic besides like eating in the cell. Because that shit would really hurt. Like, there's a reason that people do that if they want to get you. Like, I know you've seen Full Metal Jacket. They do that with socks. They put like bars of soap in their socks. Granted, it's a ton of them doing it, and that would hurt like hell. But still, just one person wailing on you, that would still probably hurt a lot. Um, so they drag him down from his bed, his bunk bed, and they hold him down on the floor, and they're just squeezing this toothpaste into his mouth, and he's choking. It's even as simple as a thing as it is. I mean, it's pretty rough, like forcing somebody to eat toothpaste, but it's pretty like uncomfortable. It's like, ugh. It's kind of hard to watch. And they're just laughing, cutting up about it. So it really gives you that inhuman feeling of like, people willing to do anything in jail, like for amusement, let alone, just because they think someone cheated in a game of poker. I mean, granted, cigarettes were on the line, but still. Um, so uh, Harry brings up, there's kind of a thing called group psychosis. These are during the interviews. And Jack says there's a hierarchy. It's survival of the fittest, eat or be eaten. So they do that with the toothpaste. And after that, they're all back to being buddy buddy. And Peter, who is like the one who's like, hey, you did it. We're all cool. It's all good, man. Like, here, you look like your stomach's upset. Let me make you a drink. He goes over, makes him a drink. And the guy's like, I don't want it. He's like, come on, man, just take the drink. And the guy, like, he knocks it out of his hand. And he's like, what's the problem? Why are you being like this? And he's like, you think I'm going to drink something that you make me? Like, what the hell? So this guy goes over, makes another drink, and they show him take the toilet brush and use the handle to stir the drink. It's like, okay, I'm not drinking that no matter what it is. It could be a fucking pina colada. But apparently this is like a mixture of like pepper and coffee. It looks fucking it looks like he has shit water in this glass. And he's like, yeah, drink this. It'll make your stomach feel better. And, obviously the guy's like not wanting it. He's like, no, I don't want to drink it. And Peter starts yelling. He's like, you've already drank it, man. You don't have a fucking choice. So, he's got him backed into a corner. All these other guys are just staring him down. So he tries to drink it, and it makes him get sick. Everyone starts laughing. Ha ha ha. But Jack, the larger man, the bald man, is a bit of a clean freak. He's a bit of a tidy housekeeper in that cell. So he's like, hey, you made this mess. You got to clean it up, man. He says, just put it back where it came from. And I mean, that makes sense in some fucked up reality. Or you could just scoop it up, flush it down the toilet, which he's right near. But he's like, no, I don't want you to use your hands. I don't want you to use a mop. Use your tongue. I want you to eat it back up. Put it back where it came from. And obviously this guy's not like, he's like, what? He's like out of it. And then Jack goes nuts. He starts beating the shit out of this guy. He's kicking him. He's like, put it back where it came from. So Mitch, in another scene that's pretty uncomfortable, he starts eating his own vomit. Pretty gross. Looks like some chicken noodle soup or something. So after that, everyone's like, hey, good job, you did it. Peter's trying to be all buddy-buddy with him again. He's like, I think Harry gets him like, here's a clean shirt, man, because he had like toothpaste and vomit on it. So they're all just sitting around, and it seems like things are normal. But then Mitch fucks up again. Like, I think honestly at that point, everything was like good. Like, the guys showed their dominance. He showed like, okay, we're all done. I did what you wanted me to do. Maybe things could have settled back down, but you never know. Things could have gone the same way. They could have gone differently. But what Mitch does next does not help the situation. Mitch runs over and tries to hit the panic button on the wall, call for help. Obviously, the other two run up, grab him, pull him back, put their hands over his mouth, and Peter goes over to the... Oh, I must have bumped it with my elbow, or my arm. False alarm. Yeah. And Mitch fucked up. So... Obviously, they're pissed off. They beat him up. They take him over to the toilet, and they're dunking his head in there. And we see from the POV of the inside the toilet, him struggling to keep his breath. If they want him to breathe, they flush the toilet. pull him out, put him back in, and he's on the ground. He's struggling to breathe. And they're like, you know what, you fucking tried to betray us. Like, fuck you. And then they take the toilet brush holder and they're like, hey, we'll make you a drink, man. You're probably not feeling too hot. And they all work it. I think at least Harry, maybe Jack, pees in this thing. I think maybe just Harry or Jack, whatever. And they dump it on him, like they're trying to get him to drink it. It's very humanizing, and like you can tell, this guy's just like he's kind of out of it. He doesn't really. He's had his shit kicked in, but he's literally about to have his shit kicked in, if you know what I mean. So then Jack decides that no, this isn't enough. We need to teach him a lesson, and he not with his finger though, with his 11th finger. Um, so yeah, Jack does the deed, and the other guys are, ironically, Edward Furlong says, "What are you, a homo?" But then proceeds to grab a broom handle, and yeah, this scene was really, really hard to watch. Like I said, they don't show anything, but it's very heavily implied. You see Edward Furlong's part, and you're like, damn, that looks. He's like churning butter over there. There's no music, there's no sounds. You just see the expressions on the other two's faces. Um, and after it, the one guy, Peter, he's obviously realized, whoa, this has gone on too far. And they're like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna fucking snitch on us now? And they're like, maybe we should make you clean up this broom now. And they're holding it in front of his face, and it's got blood on it, and you know why. Um, he's like, I think you've gone too far. And it's like, well, no shit. You've all gone very far at this point. Nobody's hands are clean, even though one of them literally in the movie says, my hands are clean. It's like, no. They're covered in shit and blood and toothpaste, brother. So, um, so this guy is like, he's against it, but he's still compliant because he, scared. He explains a little later why he's more scared. Like, the COs, the correctional officers, they're going to come in, they're going to see all this blood, they're going to see the bruises, they're going to be like, what the hell? And I think he says something like, I can't go back in that hole, like, like the solitary hole or whatever, which, that would suck, but, this guy would be alive, and you guys wouldn't have, another charge or two. Well, maybe the assault and stuff, that would probably be added to them, but he didn't really, he made him eat toothpaste. Yeah. So after that, and they rubbed the broom on his face. Oh, it's fucking gross. Um, so Peter's scared. He says, like, we've gone too far. We got to do something. And Edward Furlong's like, what do you think we should do? And he's like, well, I heard this story about these two guys locked up together, and the dude woke up and his cellmate had hung himself. And he's like, we need to tell him he needs to hang himself. So they're trying to convince Mitch that, hey, you've just been de-butt virginized, so you probably don't want to live. You can go home and tell your family that happened. And during this point of the movie, it keeps switching back to the interviews and stuff. I mean, it does throughout, but it's during this point in the interview specifically, we're seeing Peter. He's dropped kind of the hard act. He's dropped denying that he's had involvement. And this dude is like pleading for his life. He's like, I helped do this. It's my fault. He's like, I didn't physically do it, but I gave them the idea, and I feel so terrible about it. And you kind of feel a little bad for him, but then you like, hey, you could have helped you could have helped avoid this. I mean, what's a day in the hole? Uh, I mean, you could ask for new roommates. I don't know. Prison's a bitch. Um, so Peter convinces Harry to go tell Mitch, like, hey, and Harry comes over. He's like, hey, buddy, like, we're real proud of you. We're glad that you're going to do this for us, that you're going to yourself to keep us from getting out of trouble. We love you, man. So at this point, Mitch is clocked out. Mitch is got the 100-mile stare. He's left the building. They pulled the TV cord from the TV. They're watching like NASCAR or something. I don't know if Germany has NASCAR, but hey. They pull the cord off the TV. They wrap it around in his neck, and they try to do it, and the cord snaps. So, then they have to use bed sheets, which I'm like, why wouldn't you use that first off? These people aren't very smart, I guess. So they twist the bed sheets around. They pull them up and put them on a bucket. Jack tells Peter, like, look, you're a part of this, because they're afraid that, he's going to switch or snitch on him. And I mean, during the interviews, you do see he's like, I didn't do it. They forced me to. I didn't want to be killed, blah, blah, blah. But to make sure that he's part of it, there's like, you're going to tie the knot around his neck, buddy. So in the beginning, we saw like Mitch doing it himself. Completely not true. We see Peter tying the knots and like getting it ready, and they put him up there on the bucket. And isn't until later on in the movie, like they show the scene where they discover the body and they're like, help, help. A little bit after that, they show us what really happened, because you get the idea that Mitch did it himself. And you're like, well, even if he didn't do the knot, like maybe he just was like, you know what, they're going to kill me anyways. Whoop, let me kick this bucket out from under me and let it be done. No, they're just letting him stand there and he's not doing anything. And finally, Peter, Mr. I'm innocent, I didn't do anything, he gets up. Wait, actually, yeah, Peter. Because I was like, I thought Harry was the one who did it originally, Edward Furlong's character. Because like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. And you get that impression throughout it that, if Mitch didn't do it, Peter or Harry probably did it because he doesn't care. You see Peter getting super emotional, but then you're like, this makes a little more sense because he's done something that he can't take back. Peter gets up and kicks the bucket and just sits back down. And the other two are rightfully shocked. They look at him like, are you serious? Like, you're crazy, man. What's crazier is to go to bed. Well, at least, Jack, he's up there snoozing. Peter keeps mentioning he's so tired. I mean, yeah, I imagine if you did that to someone, you wouldn't be able to sleep. Harry, Edward Furlong's character, I think he's up all night kind of planning what he's going to say, planning what they're going to do to convince the guards that, hey, this guy did it to himself. And of course, you see that coming with the ending. But at the end of the day, we see that Peter did it, and we get a list of what they were in for. Like, it shows each character again and what they were originally in for. And it's so sad when you see Mitch's that he was literally only supposed to be in there for 6 months. All over some poker game for cigarettes. Life wasted. So Peter, the one who kicked the bucket and killed Mitch, got life with a possibility for parole. Now, I don't know if these sentences are accurate. And like I said, Germany, it's different. It's always different in other countries. And the sentencing in other countries can be very lenient. But also, that's a big problem in America, too. So I'm not dogging on Germany specifically. America's got its own set of problems when it comes to dishing out justice for, things that happen. But these are some of the most, baffling. Like, life with the possibility for parole. I guess maybe because he told him the truth. Something. Jack is convicted of assault and the R word. he gets 15 years added. So Jack's sentence goes from 6 years to 21 years. That's a lot of time, but that's not life. But still. And then Harry, Edward Furlong's character, gets 8 years added for assault. Aggravated assault with a broom handle. Gross. So 11 years total. So they each, in my opinion, got off pretty lightly for the torture and murder of this guy who literally had a half a year sentence. Probably would have been less with good behavior, in my assumption. Or maybe not. Maybe he just had to serve 6 years or 6 months. But 6 months is better than 6 feet deep. You know what I'm saying? And now the police are coming to get me because they realize that I'm part of the problem. I don't even know if you guys can hear the police sirens, but yeah, it's an ambience for my video about Stoic in prison. But all in all, I gotta say, if if I was making a tier list of the hardest to watch assault movies that start with the R, I would put this probably in the lower end. It's not hard to watch. There's no revenge part of it, obviously, so that kind of is lacking. And I wouldn't really categorize it as a revenge movie. But it is based off true events. It's kind of sad. It's kind of disgusting to see how humans act when they're backed into a corner. I mean, they're trapped in a small room, which is about the size of a corner, but I'm baffled. It took 4 movies, but finally a Uwe Boll movie that wasn't completely boring, had good characters, had some good quotes. I guess you could say it had some action. Not the kind of action I wanted to see. But yeah, I'd say Stoic is honestly a solid film that if you're interested in extreme films, if you're interested in drama, because it's mainly a drama, like I said, I'm kind of cheating here. It's technically not horror. Or if you're interested in true crime, which that falls into horror, at least, human horror. I would say definitely check it out if you can find it. I watched it on Paramount. I thought it would be on Tubi. Maybe it was at some point, but I found it on Paramount. It maybe would still be there by the time this video's out. I don't know. But you could probably track down a DVD for like $20 or less. I still need to get a physical copy because, like I said, I do genuinely enjoy the movie, and I think it's a very harrowing look at the system, not just in Germany or America, but the judicial system and the prisons as a whole. So with that said, we are finally done with Uwe Boll month. I am so sorry that you guys have watched me rant about 4 movies that you probably could care less about. Now, I do want to do this again because I am a masochist. I gotta torture myself just at least so you guys can enjoy me suffer. We're not going to do this again for a while, and actually I'm kind of cheating on the next one because we're going to do sequels to Uwe Boll movies that aren't actually directed by Uwe Boll. But I did find a movie of his that I'm like, I could throw that in at the end of the month and, suffer through another one. But I'm sure I'm going to be suffering through the Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, and Seed sequels. Yes, all 3 movies have sequels. But we're not doing that anytime soon. I don't even know if we're going to do that this year. We might save it for next year. But thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking around. These last 2 reviews have been really long, but like I said, there was a lot to say about them. And let me know, do you guys like when I do these longer movie reviews? Obviously, I'm not going to do editing with footage and talking over it. And yeah, you can say writing notes is unprofessional, but, I like to at least have what I want to talk about written down because I've tried to do it without in the past, and I don't know, it just feels sloppier because I'm trying to remember things, and at least this way I have something I can reference. But hey, Next week, we're going to get back to business. We're going to be back to some normal, simple videos. I've got lots of good ideas coming. And also, Art the Clown. I changed the skeleton. I'm sure you saw that, and I just thought I had to mention it. But so yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching Uwe Boll Month. I'll see you next week.